How did Elon Musk's Tesla plan to make cars? Turns out he didn't. The company was started in 2003 by engineers Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. But when Elon Musk joined in 2004 as the biggest investor, he became the frontman. And since then, he's shared two vital things about how he plans to take over the world. The second is how he'll save the planet, which we covered in our last video. But first, let's talk about how he plans to make cars. This all started back in 2006 when Elon shared his master plan for the future of Tesla. An ambitious vision for how the company would go from a small startup to a household name. So here's how that looks. First, make a high-end, expensive car to prove electric vehicles could be exciting, cool, and fast enough for wealthy early adopters. Use the profits from that to make a more affordable car, then use the profits from that to make an even cheaper car for the masses. Then do the same thing for clean energy products. Make a high-end product like solar panels for roofs, then use the profits to make those more affordable and more accessible until everyone can have one. In other words, start expensive, come down the line, make lots of money along the way, and end up saving the world. So let's see how well he's doing following his own advice. Let's go back to 2008, when the Roadster came out. This was a two-seater sports car built on the frame of a regular old gasoline Lotus Elise, but with an electric motor and battery pack from Tesla replacing the engine. That means the entire drivetrain was from Tesla, but most of the car still had to be sourced from other companies. There was no way they could build their own frame and design, their own interior parts, and assemble it all in time to meet their goals. So instead, Tesla took what already existed and made it better. They converted the Lotus into an electric car and sold it for around $100,000. That was expensive even before you added the premium price tag for the EV conversion. But there were enough wealthy buyers who wanted to be early adopters of electric cars that Tesla used the profits to move on to step 2. That was the Model S, a luxury sedan introduced in 2012. Then the Model X, an SUV introduced in 2015. These were more than just electric cars. They had to prove that electric cars could match or beat gasoline cars. Not only could they drive further on a single charge, but they could also accelerate faster, top out at higher speeds, and handle better. And if that wasn't enough, they had to look good doing it. They had to turn heads and look like they were worth the price tag. These cars weren't cheap, but they were targeted at affluent buyers. Because of that, Tesla could afford to use cutting-edge technology like touchscreen displays and over-the-air updates. Their fans loved it, and their rivals hated it, but that was part of the point. The Model S set a new benchmark for performance with its ludicrous mode going from 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. Meanwhile, Elon was making plans to build a cheaper car for the masses. So in 2017, it was time for the Model 3. This was supposed to be a mass-market sedan priced at under $40,000, not including the tax credit for electric cars. But like everything else in life, it turned out to be more difficult than expected. The Model 3 didn't just have to be the cheapest car in Tesla's lineup, but it also had to fit into a massive factory. While the Model S and X were hand-built by skilled technicians, the Model 3 and Model Y are mostly put together by robots on an assembly line. That meant Tesla had to retool their factories to be able to produce so many cars at once. But worse yet, they had to retool their suppliers too. Companies that were used to supplying parts to hand-built cars now had to supply parts for mass production. And that required massive changes to their factories and their logistics. Thankfully, some of the best auto suppliers in the world were eager to help. Even though Elon was notorious for being difficult to work with, companies like Bosch and Continental jumped at the opportunity to become Tesla suppliers. Sure, it would be challenging, but this was a chance to become a part of the Tesla revolution. But that still leaves us with one more model. The Model Y. This was introduced in 2020, and it's basically just a hatchback version of the Model 3. It has a bigger trunk, it's more passenger space, and it can tow stuff. So it's practical and appealing to families, but it doesn't come with any extra features or upgrades. It's basically just a slightly bigger Model 3. Now, if you look at the timeline, it might seem like Tesla should have been working on their 5th step, which was the affordable mass-market car. But that's where things get interesting. Instead of focusing on affordability, Elon has doubled down on luxury. The new Model S and X look nothing like their previous versions. They're totally redesigned to be sleeker and more efficient. And they come packed with features like the yoke steering wheel, a minimalist dash with a single touchscreen and rear-wheel steering. and those aren't even the most expensive options. There's also the Plaid upgrade for insane acceleration, and the option to add a new all-wheel drive system with 4 motors. So it seems like Tesla isn't ready to build their cheapest car just yet. Maybe the Model 3 and Y are still too expensive. But in the meantime, they've been busy working on the 4th part of Elon's plan. Remember when he said Tesla would make clean energy products like solar panels? Well, it turns out that didn't go as smoothly either. Tesla bought a solar panel company called Solar City in 2016, but it wasn't exactly a hit. Their panels weren't bad, but customers were frustrated by long lead times and shipping delays. But in the background, Tesla has been quietly redesigning their solar panels and preparing to launch a new product. They're calling it Tesla Solar, and it's going to look a lot different from traditional panels. Each tile will generate more electricity than traditional panels. They'll look better, they'll last longer, and they'll be easier to install. The catch is they'll cost more, too. Well, Tesla isn't targeting the average homeowner with these panels. They want to sell them to people with big roofs and bigger wallets. But once they get those initial sales, then they can start expanding into more affordable options. After all, that's how they got started with the cars. Start expensive, come down the line, make lots of money along the way, and end up saving the world. Let's go back to the original plan and talk about how they've been executing on it. Because while they may not have released their cheapest car yet, they've certainly made progress. First, the Roadster was expensive, but it brought attention to Tesla, and it funded the Model S. Then the Model S funded the Model 3. The Model 3 is funding the Model Y. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. If we take a step back, we can see 3 other important parts of his plan. First is vertical integration. Instead of buying parts from other companies, Tesla makes their own batteries, their own software, their own interiors. They've even designed their own robot army. That way they control their destiny and they don't have to rely on suppliers. And that leads us to the second piece of the puzzle, the gigafactories. Every part of Elon's plan relies on building cars at scale, and that requires huge factories. At first, Tesla tried to convert existing factories, but that wasn't fast enough. So they started building their own, and they're getting bigger every year. Even the newest Tesla factory in Austin, Texas, is twice the size of the previous ones. And that's allowed them to lower their cost per vehicle from $1,000 to $390. The third secret is direct sales. When most car companies sell their cars, they need to pay commission to dealers for every car they sell. But Tesla cuts out the middleman by selling directly to customers. That way they can focus on selling online and in Tesla stores. And that gives them a ton of data about what people are looking for in a car. And they can use that to improve their cars over time. And speaking of improvements, that brings us to the 4th secret, over-the-air updates. Most people don't realize that your smartphone was the first car with over-the-air updates. You can add features, fix bugs, and improve performance without having to visit a mechanic or pay extra for a technician to do it. And Tesla brought that to cars. Now, customers can get new features regularly delivered to their car's computer. That makes it much easier to keep improving their cars after they're sold. And finally, there's autonomy. Self-driving cars aren't a part of the master plan today, but they were part of the master plan in 2006. In the long run, Elon wants to make self-driving software that anyone can use. That would fundamentally change how people think about cars. They wouldn't own their cars, they would rent them. They wouldn't drive their cars, they would tell them where to go. And they wouldn't use their cars as much because they could use public transportation. In the long run, that would free up their time to do more productive things, and that would make them happier. Or at least that's the theory. In the end, Elon's plan was always about more than just cars. It was about changing the way we live, work, and play. Cars were just the entry point. He's convinced that renewable energy production, storage, and next-generation transport driven by AI are the future. And that's why he's spending billions of dollars and countless hours working toward that goal. Do you think Elon will succeed? Or is his master plan doomed to fail? Comment below. And thanks for watching.